Listen to the King James Radio Network by downloading the Spreaker app to your phone or tablet. Spreaker is spelled Spreaker. You can find it in the App Store on your iPhone or on Google Play for Android users. This is the King James Radio Network, your radio home for North Brunswick Raiders sports, Restoration Place, Timothy Christian Tigers basketball, the Cal Ripken Baseball District Championships, the Ladies of Our Turf Football, and the Jersey Basketball Association.
And this is your Raiders Live pregame presented by the Cal Team and Remax Country on the King James Radio Network. Corbett Thompson here at jamesisking.com. We are live in Monroe Township, New Jersey at Monroe High School, where tonight Raiders football is on the King James Radio Network as the North Brunswick Raiders at 2-1 take on the Monroe Falcons at 0-2. So Monroe is still out on the field. North Brunswick went into the where do they go? They are behind us here, at least the coaches are, meeting with the officials over to my left behind the press box here. So that's where head coach Mike Saipata and the rest of his staff are at the moment. The players, looks like, have gone off into another area as they await last-minute instructions before tonight's game. But the Raiders come in under second-year head coach Mike Saipata and Dan Lee in his fourth season with Monroe. And so, you know, for the Raiders, this is, I wouldn't call it a trap game, but it's a game that, you know, the Raiders they definitely don't want to fall asleep at the switch. Now, according to the Born Power Index, which there's a lot of brouhaha surrounding the Born Power Index this year, that's a whole nother conversation. But the Raiders are favored by 28 points, 28 and a decimal point, if you will, according to the Born Power Index to win this game. So, with that in mind, you know, the Raiders certainly want to come out sharp tonight and you know, prove that this is not, you know, going to be a sleepwalk type of game. So with that in mind, of course, we had a chance to catch up earlier today with Raiders head football coach Mike Saipata and talk to him about tonight's game. And so, you know, in talking to Coach Saipata, you know, and I think Coach is always confident, but I think, you know, tonight is one of those games where you certainly don't want to be overconfident. But I think Coach Saipata, you know, feels like he still has a handle on things here for this evening's game. So without any further ado, again, earlier today, I had a chance to catch up with the head coach of Raiders football, Mike Saipata, and here he is right now.
Here with Raiders head football coach Mike Saipata as we get ready for North Brunswick and Monroe, as the Raiders are 2-1, looking to go 3-1 for the first time since 2010. And so, you know, Coach, I'll just briefly touch on last week's game against Edison. So basically, what were you happy with there with the 26-21 win? What aspect of the game were you happy with?
You know, I was happy the way we responded when the game was close. You know, our kids didn't fold. They were confident in what was being called, and they executed. And, you know, sometimes in a tight game like that, you know, high school kids, you know, sometimes the pressure might be too much for them. The kids rose to the occasion, and we made plays. We had about 5 or 6 straight possessions there on defense where we just kept holding them and, you know, decided to be the winner.
On offense, you scored all your points in the first half. Do you want more balance, or does it not matter when you score, just as long as you have more than them at the end of the game?
I like the balance. I like the balance of the run and pass. I mean, it was, if you really break it down and look at it, we were about 70-30 run. But, you know, we just got to, you know, in the second half, we're going to come out a little more on fire, make sure we capitalize offensively. You know, obviously the turnovers don't help, but, you know, we're getting there and we're getting better at practice.
Your backfield of Miles Bailey, you put Chris Arnold back there as well. It seemed to work out for you last week. Is that what you're going to stick to for the time being?
You know, if it's successful, you stick with it. And if it's not, or if we see a different look on the defense, you know, we always have an answer to what the other team is doing. But we like keeping the defense on their heels in the fact that you don't know if Chris or Miles is getting the ball. Obviously, Miles is a centerpiece, and people are going to key on him. So I think adding Chris back there helps with a little more balance and a little more deceptiveness as a defense.
As I call it, the PBA with Petrillo, Bailey, and Arnold. Did you see enough from your defense in the second half last week? After Edison's opening drive, you held them off the board. Did you see enough in that second half to give you confidence going into this week?
Yeah, you know, like, again, Edison, I thought played very well, and they gave us everything they got. But you kind of see where our strengths and weaknesses are and what we need to work on. You know, we certainly fixed it during the week. You know, you're going to see a different look D-line-wise this week. But we have guys that we could trust whether they're in or not. We have guys that we could throw in there, and we have the 100% confidence in them. Whoever will go in, whether it's a corner or a D lineman. But obviously the mistakes, the 21 points we gave up, we definitely addressed and fixed during the week.
In terms of Monroe, Dylan Gorhan, he's their quarterback. Matt Spalletti is the guy that seems to run the ball for them, their primary guy. Give me an assessment of what you're going up against with their offense.
I like those two guys. I think the quarterback has a very good arm. I think he, when given time, I think he does throw a very good ball, hits his targets. I think the running back's got a good burst, number 7. I think he's a pretty good inside zone runner, and they got a big guy up front, number 54, who I like.
Now you have a chance here to go 3-1. I mentioned for the first time since 2010. Does that carry any significance for you guys? I tell the guys a win's a win, whether it's 2-0 or 70-0. We need to win football games, and I said back when I first got the job, our staff works tireless hours of getting these guys to learn how to win, and the more wins you get, the better they're going to get with competition and how to approach games and how to approach, walking around school and town as a winner. So any win you can get is great. Starting 3-1 is obviously a great thing, but, we make sure we concentrate on Monroe, beat them, and then, focus on next week. And next week will be homecoming against Woodbridge. 2 more from Mike Sipot here. I wanted to get your thoughts on this new proposed GMC Mid-State realign or merger rather coming up. It's 3 years away, but I assume you'll still be here. So, any initial thoughts on all of that?
I hope I'm here, man.
I think you'll be here.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think anytime you get competition versus other teams, and obviously, I spent 3 or 4 years in the Mid-State when I was at Immaculata, and every week was a dogfight. Those teams are always well prepared. They have good, tough kids up front. They always have an athlete or a big-time quarterback. So I think it'll be different. I think it's something that high school fans would enjoy. Obviously there's some really tough teams out there, but again, we'll see who we get and what the schedule is, and then we'll do our best to prepare for it.
And then finally, I'm sure you were probably along with a legion of other coaches trying to, some of the, Coach Marr is your PowerPoints guy, so he's probably trying to sit there and figure out this Born Power Index thing too. Now, according to that, you have to win by at least 29 points tonight to move up in rank. Does it bother you that you have to do over, kind of go over and above, what you might want to do, or not really?
Even Coach Marr, who's a genius at these things, can't really figure it out. But I think he's got it. I think he's figured it out. Again, it goes back to the other question. I want the kids to learn how to win, whether it's if you're beating the team by 29 or not. I'm more worried about us winning, and if it comes to a point where we have to beat them more than 29, I don't know. It kind of takes sometimes the football gods get disrupted there. I certainly never want to show up a team, and I know some things will never be paradise here, and if it ever happens to you, how would you feel? So obviously it's you're rewarded for doing it. So we do a good job as a staff trying to talk about how we want to game plan that, and how we approach it if we're ever in that situation. But obviously the main goal is just to win and move on.
Hey, Coach Mike Sipot, as they get ready for the Raiders to get ready to take on Monroe. Coach, thanks again, and good luck tonight.
Thank you.
There you hear from the head coach of Raiders football, Mike Sipot, about tonight's game. And again, the Raiders have every reason to be confident here. But with that being said, that is why they play the games. So North Brunswick certainly does not want to take this game for granted. It's a divisional game, so that adds some importance to it as well. The Raiders trying to keep pace with Sayreville in the GMC White Division right now. So obviously, not a game where you want to slip and stub your toe here, if you will. So, again, according to the Born Power Index, the Raiders are a 28.6 point favorite to win tonight's game. So we'll see if that comes to fruition or not. But I'm sure Monroe and Dan Lee, they're not just going to let the Raiders march down the field. So they're going to have something drawn up as well. So with that, we will take ourselves a break. And when we come back, we talked to junior linebacker Asaru Napier coming up on the other side of the break here from Monroe. And so let me see. I want to make sure. I believe I saw the sign coming in. I believe it said Paul Walsh Stadium. I have to double check that. before I officially announce that. But we'll break, and we'll come back on the other side with our Raiders Spotlight. And again, we talked to Asara Napier, who, has put together a nice season for the Raiders so far. There's a couple of guys. I had a hard time choosing, this week who we were going to do our Raiders Spotlight on, because the Raiders forced 5 turnovers last week against Edison. So a lot of guys contributed, 4 different guys with interceptions, 4 different guys scoring touchdowns for the Raiders. So I had a hard time with my Raiders Spotlight this week, but we managed to straighten it out. So, well, I guess that's a good problem to have, if you will. So with that being said, we will take ourselves a break. And again, when we come back one more time, in case you haven't heard it, Asara Napier will join us in our Raiders Spotlight. This is our Raiders Live pregame presented by the Cal Team and Remax Country on the King James Radio Network. All right, we come back here to our Raiders Live pregame. And again, my thanks to John and Dina Calendrucio, the brother-sister team at the Cal Team and Remax Country over in Milltown. So we're not that far away from Raiders football tonight. We're about 15 minutes away from kickoff as North Brunswick takes on Monroe in a GMC White Division matchup. So, in addition to head coach Mike Sipot, earlier today I had a chance to catch up with junior linebacker Asaru Napier, who helped out the Raiders with an interception last week. And again, one of 5 turnovers that the Raiders forced against the Eagles. And North Brunswick hoping to do more of the same tonight. So, without too much further ado, here's my conversation with Asaru Napier, linebacker for the North Brunswick Raiders.
Here with Asaru Napier, a linebacker and running back for the Raiders, as he's in his junior year, as the Raiders get ready for Monroe tonight. So the first question I'll throw at you is, as a defense, you guys got 5 turnovers last week against Edison. How important is that to force those turnovers and swing the momentum back to your side?
Oh, that means that we can make more touchdowns against Monroe. And I guess that, just make more touchdowns, more plays on offense, help the offense go out more. And,
Your defense becomes your offense, basically.
Yeah.
Do you feel like now's a good time to get a winning streak going now that you're 2-1? You feel like you can get a winning streak going and hopefully that'll carry you towards the state playoffs?
I think we should. Well, I think it's a good time to do it. More wins. Well, we get to the playoffs and hopefully championships and hopefully become champions. So, yeah.
Obviously, that's the goal. What was the main focus for you in practice this week? Was there anything in particular that you were working on?
Just guard reads, getting off of blocks, and just blitzing.
What's the hardest out of those that you mentioned? Which one's the hardest?
To me, I think it's the blocks, getting off of blocks, because I've been struggling through that lately. But this week in practice, I think I got better through it.
And now, these last couple of weeks, is this the best football that you feel like you've played? And I'm including, did you play JV before you came up?
Yeah, I played JV last year.
Okay, so including JV, is this the best football that you feel like you played so far?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Why is that?
I mean, I've been working hard on JV last year, and now that they see what I can do on JV, now they're letting me have a chance to do that out on varsity, and it's making me, become a better player and stuff, and yeah.
As a team, I mentioned you guys are 2-1. What do you guys need to do just to finish what you started? You mentioned getting to the playoffs, trying to win a championship. How do you get from point A to point B?
I think having each other's backs, helping each other when we go down, just having a team effort, and
As Coach Sipot always says, together.
Yes, always together.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of your group of linebackers, you got Sean Brahini and Manny Herrera and Chris Arnold and those guys. Do you feel like you're up to where they are, in their level, or do you feel like you still have to grow? And you mentioned some things you have to work on. So do you feel like you're where they are, or do you feel like you have to grow a little bit?
I personally think I am where they are, and yeah.
What is there anything that you learned from those guys that helps you during the course of a game?
Well, a little bit. I learn more things from the coaches more than the players. But usually they're good at actually, I'm not gonna lie, they're good at doing getting off of blocks and stuff. So
Which is what you're working on.
Yeah, this is what I'm working on. But, yeah.
So you learn probably more from coaches like watching film or one-on-ones, things like that?
Yeah.
All right. And you ready for tonight?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Asaro Napier again joining us here and had an interception. How did it feel to get that interception last week?
Good, honestly. Yeah, it was fun running the ball, honestly. I wish I made the touchdown, but I got good yardage for the offense, and then, yeah.
You'll just have to score on the next one, I guess.
Yeah, I got to score on the next one, typically, yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with that, and good luck tonight, and good luck the rest of the year. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So there you hear from Asaro Napier, junior linebacker for the Raiders. And so looks like we are moments away from both teams coming out of their respective locker room areas or wherever they may be. It's a long walk to the school building from here. You got to cross the street and whatnot, so probably some shelter somewhere around here. But in any event, Asaro Napier, of course, and the crew ready for tonight's North Brunswick Raiders game against Monroe. And so, what we will do is we will take a break. When we come back, we will have this date in Raiders football history. We'll also run down the series a little bit between North Brunswick and Monroe. These two teams have not met each other since 2015. The Raiders have not beaten Monroe since 2003. So Monroe has won the last 6. So we'll talk a little bit about that coming up on the other side of the break. This is your Raiders Live pregame. And again, thanks to the Cal team at Remax Country on the King James Radio Network.
This week at Restoration Place, Learning God's Ways by Pastor John Bazemore Jr.
You really don't want to go through what you have to go through, to receive the instructions. So you're really trying to bypass the instructions so that you can still do what you want to do.
Restoration Place, on demand on the King James Radio Network at jamesisking.com. It's time for this date in Raiders football history as we take a look back at North Brunswick Raiders football on this date, September the 21st. Well, on September the 21st, 2001, the Raiders defeated Bishop R by a score of 13-7. North Brunswick quarterback Crimson Marrero hit Jason Schoonover on a 16-yard touchdown pass early in the fourth quarter to make the difference. Leon Molina scored the only other touchdown for the Raiders on a 59-yard run in the first quarter. Molina finished the game with 125 yards on 15 carries. September the 21st, 2007, North Brunswick defeated South Plainfield 27-19 behind the running of Pouchon Brown, who ran for 300 yards that night on 37 carries with 3 touchdowns. That is a look at this date in North Brunswick Raiders football history. We'll be back with more of Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
We are back here to our Raiders Live pregame on the King James Radio Network as the Monroe Falcons get ready to come out here. They are dressed in their purple jerseys with the gold numbers, and they have, of course, the purple pants, the gold helmets, the pewter gold helmets, if you will. And so they will come out of their, I don't want to call it a bounce house, but you've seen them in NFL games. But with that being said, Monroe will be coming out momentarily, and so will the Raiders. Monroe over to my left, North Brunswick over to my right. And so both teams will come out of their respective areas here in just a moment. And in the meantime, just to give you a little rundown, Monroe leads the all-time series against North Brunswick 11-10. And again, Monroe has won the last 6 meetings against the Raiders. And the last time North Brunswick defeated Monroe was 2003. So that is what North Brunswick will try to undo here tonight. They will try to undo that streak. And so with that being said, and so I think the North Brunswick coaches are here, which means I'll be vacating my area here in just a moment. So what we'll do is we'll take a break. And when we come back, this will end our pregame, and we'll go into our live coverage of Raiders football on the other side of the break. Oh, they're going to go up top. Okay, I thought they were going to. So they're going to go up top. Okay, so I'll live with that, which means I'll have to retape everything. But we'll take ourselves a break, and we'll come back to live action. We'll have kickoff here in just a couple of minutes. This is how it has been our Raiders Live pregame, presented by the Cal team at Remax Country, and it's on the King James Radio Network.
This broadcast is a production of the King James Radio Network, which is solely intended for the private use of its listening audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this audio transmission without the written permission or consent from the King James Radio Network is strictly prohibited. This is the King James Radio Network, your radio home for North Brunswick Raiders sports, Restoration Place, Timothy Christian Tigers basketball, the Cal Ripken Baseball District Championships, the Ladies of Our Turf football, and the Jersey Basketball Association.
We are the North Brunswick Raiders cheerleaders. It's time for Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out.
And a pleasant Friday evening to one and all, and we welcome you to Monroe Township, New Jersey, right across the street from Monroe High School, where tonight North Brunswick Raiders football is on the King James Radio Network. As tonight, the North Brunswick Raiders meet the Monroe Falcons in a GMC White Division matchup. North Brunswick comes in at 2-1 under second-year head coach Mike Sipot, and the Monroe Falcons looking for their first win of the year at 0-2 under head coach Dan Lee in his fourth season with the Falcons. Captains are out at midfield. I need to sit down. Captains are out at midfield. Thank you. Captains are out at midfield for the coin toss. It looks like Monroe has won the toss, and they will receive. And Monroe going from right to left. Of course, the captains for the Raiders, Angel Gonzalez, Sean Brahini, Miles Bailey, and Christian Petrillo. And so, looks like we are just about ready to go. The captains for Monroe, by the way. I will get that to you here in just a second as soon as I throw my glasses on, which I will need periodically throughout the course of the game. Let's see, Vale Aaliyah, Corey Thompson, Corey Coleman, if I saw right. And I believe, no, that's not it. See, that's what I get for not writing it down. I apologize. I had to go and get my glasses to just read it. That's the accelerated age factor kicking in. But anyway, Monroe, they will receive and go from right to left. The Raiders in their white jerseys with the gold numbers, blue pants with the blue helmets and the double gold stripe down the middle, the player jersey number on the side. So, our game time temperature is presented by the Weather Channel. Aaron R. will kick things off here for the Raiders. No wind, really. Not a windy night to speak of. The official last day of summer. And I hate to see summer go myself, but then again, that's just me. So we'll get you our game time temperature here in a second as R is ready to kick. And so, back deep for Monroe. Number 7, Michael Torsiello on the far side, and it looks like, if I'm correct, looks like number 25, Matt Spalletti, on the near side. He'll take the kick at about the 15, runs it towards the middle, 20, 25, and is tackled at the 30-yard line. In the meantime, we'll get you our game time temperature in Monroe. Cloudy skies, 72 degrees at kickoff. And so Monroe will have it first and 10. And it looks like they will spot it just in front of the 30-yard line. So, with that being said, junior quarterback Dylan Gorhan will work out of the shotgun here with 3 receivers right and back to his right. So Gorhan will take the snap, hands off to Torsiello. He goes up the middle, maybe a yard, before meeting the North Brunswick interior. So Asaro Napier, one of the guys on the stop there, along with number 76, Tyshawn Parson. Michael Torsiello was the number 7 that Coach Sipot referred to in our pregame. So 2nd and 9 from the 31. Out of the shotgun here will be Gorhan, and takes the snap and hands off to Torsiello. Breaks one tackle up the middle, but Asaro Napier wraps him up at about the 33, it looks like. Gain of 2. So 3rd down and 7. So Monroe opens up with Torsiello and the run game. 3rd and 7 now from the 33. Just underway. 10:20 to go here in the first. No score. Trips to the right. 4 receivers. Torciello in the backfield behind Gorhan. Takes the snap out of the gun, dumps it to Torciello on the near side, crosses the 35 and is dumped there by Manny Herrera. So Manny Herrera on the tackle for the Raiders. Ball is spotted at the 36-yard line, gain of 3, which will bring up 4th down. So it'll be 4th and 3 from the 36. Back to punt for Monroe is Brandon Scott. Takes the snap and will get this away. Miles Bailey on the return, and he will catch it at the 29 and breaks one tackle, gets away, 30, far side, 35, 40, 45, midfield, 45, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown North Brunswick Raiders. Miles Bailey adds another page to the bailout plan. Bailey from roughly 70 yards out. And the Raiders take a 6-0 lead. Caught that at about the 30. And took it to the house. So Aaron R. will kick the extra point with Christian Petrillo to hold. Long count here, Petrillo. Not ready yet. Now he is. Snap, spot, R's kick goes up and through. And it is good. With 8:15 to go here in the first quarter, North Brunswick takes an instant 7-0 lead on a 70-yard touchdown run from Miles Bailey. We'll break, and we'll come back to Monroe in just a moment. You're listening to North Brunswick Raiders football, and it's on the King James Radio Network.
Dana and Lisa here from Our Turf Football to tell you that the Our Turf podcast is up and running.
Did you know that women make up over 45% of all NFL fans and counting? Here at Our Turf, we have our own take on what's happening around the National Football League with special features, previews, reports from our official fan reporters covering each team, and interviews with players and personalities who have the scoop on what's happening. Women are in the know when it comes to football, and it's time the rest of the world knew it too.
Our Turf Football is every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the King James Radio Network at jamesisking.com.
Aaron R. will kick this off from the 40. Torciello and Spalletti back deep. Line drive kick. It looks like Spalletti will pick it up at about the 11 and runs it back to the 15, 20, cuts it inside 25, and is tackled there. Sean Berhini, among others, on the tackle. So Monroe will try again, 1st and 10 from their own 27-yard line. Glad you're with us at jamesisking.com. Also on Facebook, you'll see us under King James Radio Network, and on Twitter at King James Radio 1. We have an official timeout, it looks like. Oh, they want to stop the clock, I believe. 7:35 it shows left in the first quarter. They're going to reset it here, it looks like. So they're going to redo the game clock here to 7:52 remaining in the quarter. So 1st and 10 Monroe from their own 27. Dylan Gorhan with Torciello to his right will work out of the shotgun. 2 receivers left. And Gorhan will go ahead and work out of the gun here. Takes the snap and fakes the handoff to Torciello. Rolling right, throws it right, and incomplete. Intended for number 11, Jagger Agnew. Flagged down, though. We'll see what the call is. I think we have a personal foul against the Raiders. I think that's what that was. Not sure if there was a hit at the end of the play or what have you. But the ball is at the 27, so the referee's going to walk this off. But that did look like a personal foul signal. So that's 15 yards. All the way to the Monroe 42-yard line. The Raiders did a good job of avoiding penalties last week. They were only flagged 3 times last week. A stark contrast from the 11 penalties against Sayreville 2 weeks ago. First and 10 from the 42. Gorin out of the shotgun. Will take the snap, fakes the handoff, and now runs up the middle, 45, and is dragged down at the 45-yard line. Tyshawn Parson again on the stop. Parson grabbed the jersey and pulled him down. Gain of 4. 2nd and 6. Brian Petchko is in the backfield behind Goran. 3 receivers bunched to the left. Goran out of the gun, takes the snap, hands off to Petchko this time, and gets a couple of yards. Leon Lowry on the tackle at about the 38. Leon is a junior, getting his first taste of varsity action this year. 3rd and 4 from the 48. Looks like a hurry-up offense here from Monroe. Petchko in the backfield behind Gorin. Again, 3 receivers bunched to the left and 3 to the right, so a 6-receiver set here. And fake handoff to Petchko, throws it right, incomplete. That one intended for Agnew, and another flag. So twice they've thrown it to Agnew, and twice there's been a flag. And twice it's been against the Raiders. Well, I guess Dan Lee has found the secret sauce. Just throw it to Agnew. At worst case scenario, he makes the catch. And best case scenario, you get a flag.
Ineligible man downfield. Declined by North Brunswick.
So,
fourth down for the Falcons from the 48-yard line.
So apparently that went against Monroe then. Illegal man downfield against Monroe. All right, so scratch what I said about throwing it to Agnew. So the penalty was declined by the Raiders, which means it will be 4th down and 4 from the 48. The Falcons will be forced to punt. So on the punt is Brandon Scott for Monroe. He stands at his own 33. Miles Bailey again back deep. He already broke one here tonight. This time he'll angle it towards the far sideline. And it'll sail towards the sideline and out of bounds, so no return. So Monroe is not going to press their luck. And so it'll be 1st down. North Brunswick, they will get their first turn on offense. I'm looking at where the line judge is. Ball is spotted at the 17-yard line. 1st and 10 Raiders from their own 17. Senior quarterback Christian Petrillo at the helm. Chich. 38 carries for 38 carries for 199 yards this year. With a rushing touchdown. Also has a touchdown pass. 3 receivers bunched right. Chich out of the gun, pitches to Bailey, and he'll come to the near side. 20, 25, outside 30, and is tackled just ahead of the 30-yard line. Tackle made by number 2, James Myers. And I think we got a penalty against the Raiders here. Let's see. It is a holding call against the Raiders, and it'll come back. So now that's 2 penalties on the Raiders here in the early stages. So that'll send North Brunswick back even further here. The original line of scrimmage was the 17-yard line. And so they will move it all the way back to the 10. So 1st and 17 from the 10-yard line with 6:27 remaining in the first quarter. Raiders lead it by a score of 7-0. And now we get a flag down here before the snap. Let's see what this is. So False start against the Raiders, and they weren't even set. But nonetheless, that'll move it back a little further. Ball is back, looks like at the 3-yard line, which will bring up 1st and 24, which they will go ahead and run it here as Petrillo gives to Miles Bailey. Petchko on the tackle. So first carry for Miles. Short gain.
2nd and 13 for North Brunswick.
Ball spotted at the 10-yard line. So 2nd and 13 from the 10. Petrillo out of the gun, takes the snap, throws it right, completes it, and making his way upfield across the 20 is Aaron R., the senior. So R makes the catch. Close to a first down, but not quite. Ball is spotted at the 23-yard line. Gain of, we'll call it 13. We'll call it 3rd and inches from the 23. Petrillo with a split backfield out of the gun, takes the snap, hands off to Bailey. He runs left, looking for room. 25-30, outside, far side, 40, 50, 40, 30, cuts it back in, 20, and he is brought down. The ball came loose, but looks like it went out of bounds. Just short of the 20-yard line for Bailey. Jagger Agnew was running stride for stride with Bailey, and he was the only one who could stop him. But 2 flags are down back at the North Brunswick 25, and another penalty against the Raiders that's going to come back. That's the 4th penalty already in the first 7 minutes of the game. And so the penalty bug is biting the Raiders here. Ball back at the 14-yard line, so negate the run from Bailey. That'll bring up roughly 3rd and 9 from the 14 with 5:05 to go here in the first quarter. 4 receivers, 2 to each side. Bailey to the right of Petrillo. Chich will work out of the gun, takes the snap, drops back, looking, throws it left side, and it is complete. No, take it away, take it away. That's Agnew, I believe, and he's going to run in for a Monroe touchdown. Jagger Agnew. Jagger Agnew. Wait, we got a flag. Flag down. Back at the 7-yard line. So hold everything. Monroe thought they had a pick 6 by Agnew, but there is a flag on the play. And it's against Monroe. A block in the back on the interception return. Way to go, Z! So Monroe will keep it. But Jagger Agnew gets the interception. If indeed it was after the return, it'll be Monroe ball. Ball is spotted at the North Brunswick 16-yard line. So the Raiders now with 4 penalties and a turnover to start their night. They do lead it 7-0. So 1st and 10, Monroe from the North Brunswick 16 with 4:50 to go here in the first quarter.
Agnew with the interception for the Falcons.
So again, Jagger Agnew with the pick. So 1st down and 10, Monroe from the 16. 3 receivers bunched to the right. Gorin with an empty backfield, and now flanking behind him is Spoletti. Out of the gun, Gorin will take the snap and hands off to Spoletti and goes up the middle. Doesn't get much, though.
Spoletti on the carry. He's stopped by Lowry.
Leon Lowry right there on the stop for North Brunswick. Probably no gain there. 2nd and 10 from the 16-yard line. 4:37 to go here in the first. Raiders lead it 7-0. So 2nd down and 10. 4 receivers, 2 to each side. This time Torciello to the right of Goran. Out of the shotgun. Goran takes a low snap, drops back, looks, throws it up in the air, right side, looking, incomplete. Intended for Agnew. And Rami Berberina. Oh, check that. Brandon Outlaw. On the coverage. I mistook the 5 for a 9. Berberina's still out with that knee injury. 3rd and 10 for Monroe from the 16. Split backfield this time. Torciello to the left. And Goran will call the signals, takes the snap, dropping back, looking. Here comes the rush, and he is sacked. That is Samad Wingo. Bingo for Wingo. Wingo gets the sack. That will bring up 4th down. A big sack for Wingo right there. Ball back to the 23. So 4th and 17. Monroe will go for it here. This would be a 40-yard field goal if Monroe tried to kick it. Torciello to the right of Goran. 2 receivers right. Now Torciello in motion to the far side. Out of the gun. Goran takes the snap, dumps it to Torciello. Flag down. Play is blown dead. And false start against Monroe. And so that brings us to 4th and 22 from the 28-yard line, which means the Monroe has to get to the North Brunswick 6-yard line for a first down. We have 3:32 remaining in the first quarter. North Brunswick 7, Monroe nothing. But 4th and 22 Monroe here. Torciello lined up behind Goran. 2 receivers right. So Torciello out of the shotgun, takes the snap, dropping back to pass, throws it over the middle, and it is incomplete. That was intended for Jagger Agnew, and Miles Bailey on the coverage for the Raiders. And Monroe turns it over on downs. So the Raiders will have the ball. 1st and 10. Ball will be spotted at the 28-yard line. So the Raiders on their 2nd drive with 3:27 to go here in the first. And so Christian Petrillo with a split backfield of Chris Arnold and Miles Bailey. The snap goes rolling past Petrillo. He's got to pick it up and make something happen, and he's going to be crunched back at the 15-yard line. 3 guys there for Monroe. James Myers was there, along with Chris Fiato, number 56. And a loss of 13 back to the 15-yard line. 2nd and 23. So Petrillo with Chris Arnold to his right. Petrillo looks to the sideline. 2 receivers left. Petrillo looking at his wristband. Now out of the shotgun, takes the snap, bobbles it, now rolling left. Looking, he'll throw it, tipped and almost intercepted. Incomplete. Number 54, Corey Coleman, almost picked that off. He was being chased down, Chich was, by Brian Petchko. Petchko was chasing him to the far side. And Chich barely got that away.
3rd down and 20.
3rd down and very long for the Raiders. Ball is spotted still at the 15-yard line with 2:33 to go in the first. Raiders lead at 7-0. Bailey to the right of Petrillo. 3 receivers left. Petrillo takes the low snap out of the gun. Looking, scrambling, rolling left. He'll run. 15 to the 20. Outside, 25. Far sideline. Hit near the sideline at the 30. It looked like Petchko was able to make the tackle. And so that will bring up 4th down. Chich getting back towards the original line of scrimmage. Got to about the 30, it looks like. 4th and 8 from the 30 with 2:01 and counting remaining here in the first. Aaron R. will punt. He stands at his own 18. Torsiello back deep for Monroe. And a line drive kick. Torsiello backs up. It bounces. Takes a Raider bounce across the 30 and down towards the 25. And it will be down there. So it will be 1st and 10 Monroe.
I'd like to send a big congratulations out to our cheerleading coach. Miss Erica Brown is getting married tonight.
So somebody's getting married. So DeMonte Blunt, by the way, downing that for the Raiders. So I don't know. I've never done a game where we've had a wedding proposal at the game, so we may get to that eventually. Maybe not tonight, though. 1st and 10, Monroe from their own 26-yard line. With 1:42 remaining in the first quarter, and again, the Raiders lead at 7-0. 2 receivers right. Torsiello lined up behind Gorhan. Out of the shotgun. Gorhan takes a low snap, drops back, throws it left, and down to his knees to make the catch was James Myers. Sean Brahini making the touch tackle, if you will. So Myers on the catch, which will bring up 2nd down. Ball spotted at the 25. Loss of 1, 2nd and 11. With a minute 20 to go in the first. This time 3 in the backfield for Monroe. Petchko to the right. Gorin out of the gun. Takes the snap. He'll hand off, and going up the middle here for a minimal gain. Masaru Napier on the tackle. The give was to Anthony Saris, number 19. Saris is a sophomore. A lot of sophomores and juniors on this Monroe team. So hurry up offense here. Ball is at the 26, 3rd and 10. Gorin again with 3 in the backfield, and we get movement here. Did the Raiders jump? Or did Monroe prompt them to jump? Looks like it is against the Raiders. That's penalty number 5 on the Raiders tonight. So ball is at the 31. Now you're looking at 3rd and 5. So this time, Goran out of the gun. 2 receivers left. And takes the snap, fakes the handoff. He'll roll right, throws it right, and completes it. And crunched by Samad Wingo was Saris. And so that will bring up 4th down. That was a loss of 2 back to the 30. Check that, a gain of 2 to the 33. So 4th and 3. So Brandon Scott will punt with 7 seconds left in the quarter. It looks like Monroe might just let it run out here. Let's see. Nope, they're going to go ahead and snap it. And Scott gets it away. A high kick. Miles Bailey back deep. He'll let it go to the far side. It'll take a Monroe bounce. It will be down near the 25. And so that is the final play of the first quarter. And so we have played 1 here in Monroe. And the Raiders lead it by a score of 7-0. We'll break. We'll come back with more of North Brunswick Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
This broadcast is a production of the King James Radio Network, which is solely intended for the private use of its listening audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this audio transmission without the written permission or consent from the King James Radio Network is strictly prohibited.
Miles Bailey gets the handoff to start the second quarter with the Raiders starting from their own 25. He is dragged down in Monroe territory inside the 20. There's a flag down at the end of the play. So Miles Bailey with another big run tonight for the Raiders. To start the second quarter, he got the handoff from Christian Petrillo. He was dragged down near the far sideline, and then the flag came in at the end.
335-0432. That is our first winning cheerleading raffle basket.
It's at the Monroe 16, and it looks like it's against Monroe because they're going to tack on to the end of the run. So a 59-yard run for Bailey. Tack on more after the penalty. First down and goal, North Brunswick from the 8. Petrillo out of the gun, and before he gives to Arnold, we get a whistle. And it looks like we get a North Brunswick timeout. So first and goal, Raiders from the Monroe 8-yard line. We will break, and we'll come back here to Monroe in just a moment. You're listening to North Brunswick Raiders football, and you're hearing it live on the King James Radio Network. We come back now to the second quarter. The Raiders lead it 7-0. Opening minute, 15 seconds gone by here in the second quarter. The Raiders have a first and goal on the Monroe 8-yard line thanks to a 59-yard run from Miles Bailey. Christian Petrillo will work out of the shotgun with Chris Arnold to his left. Petrillo takes the snap, pitches to Arnold. He sidesteps one man, tries to go left, and breaks another tackle, and gets to the 5, rumbling through, down to about the 2-yard line, it looks like. Petchko on the tackle, and it looks like we got an injured man down for Monroe. Arnold just kept chugging along. James Myers is the injured player for Monroe. And again, I told you guys last week, Chris Arnold goes at 6 feet tall, 220 pounds. Meanwhile, Myers injured down at about the 8-yard line. So they'll take a look at him and make sure he's all right. So we have 11.5, 30 seconds gone by here in the second quarter. But, as far as this series goes, the all-time series, we mentioned Monroe leads the all-time series 11 games to 10, and they've won the last 6. The last Raiders victory was 48-14 back in 2003. The Raiders had won the first 5 meetings over Monroe before Monroe finally won in 1986. And again, the last time these two teams met was 2015. Myers walking off. But Myers walks off, and apparently there's another man down for Monroe. Haven't quite been able to identify who it is yet. So we'll see what the situation is there. But again, 30 seconds gone by here in the second quarter. And the Raiders lead it by a score of 7-0, and they are threatening deep in Monroe territory. Of course, night has fallen here in Monroe, and it looks like they're going to get the card out here. And it looks like a lineman for Monroe. Again, I can't identify who it is yet. But we'll go ahead and we'll take a break here for the injury timeout, and we'll come back with 11:30 to go in the second quarter. North Brunswick 7, Monroe nothing. We'll break. We'll come back with Raiders football on the King James Radio Network. All right. Off the injury timeout, the injured player is number 54, Corey Coleman. And so he goes off on the cart. Meanwhile, the Raiders were first and goal on the 8-yard line. Bailey and Arnold in the backfield. The give is to Bailey, off tackle right toward the goal line. Touchdown, North Brunswick Raiders. Miles Bailey. So Miles Bailey instituting page 4 of the bailout plan. His 4th rushing touchdown of the year, and the Raiders lead it 13-0.
On to attempt the extra point.
So Aaron R. will kick the extra point here. And it's up. And it is good. And so, with 11 minutes and 22 seconds to go, here in the second quarter, the Raiders have taken a 14-0 lead over Monroe. We'll break. And we'll come back in just a moment with North Brunswick Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
This week at Restoration Place, Learning God's Ways by Pastor John Bazemore Jr.
You really don't want to go through what you have to go through, to receive the instructions. So you're really trying to bypass the instructions so that you can still do what you want to do.
Restoration Place, on demand on the King James Radio Network at jamesisking.com.
We come back here to Raiders football here in Monroe, as it is now a 14-0 game following the 2-yard touchdown run from Miles Bailey. Aaron R. will kick from right to left. Torciello to the near side. It'll go straight up the middle, now go over to the far side, and Spalletti at the 15 and jumps out of a tackle at the 27, but is brought down by about 3 or 4 Raiders at the 30. Brandon Outlaw, one of the guys there for North Brunswick. So Monroe will have it 1st and 10 with 11:05 to go here in the second. It will be 1st and 10 Falcons from their own 23-yard line. So Monroe, on their 4th possession, they have punted in the previous 3. We get an official timeout here. Do they want to reset the clock? Yeah, it looks like they want to reset the clock. So it looks like they're going to reset the clock to 11:12. And so 1st and 10 Monroe from their own 23-yard line. Torciello in the backfield to the left of Gorhan. Out of the shotgun, Gorhan rolls left, throws left, and completes it, but no gain there. Brandon Outlaw able to drive the receiver out of bounds. Pass was caught by number 24, Brandon Scott. So no gain. 2nd and 10 Monroe from their own 23. Clock runs with 10:41 to go in the half. Trips to the right. Torciello to the right of Gorhan. And Gorhan out of the shotgun, takes the low snap, will throw it right, completes it to Myers. Myers will break one tackle, but not another. He's going to be wrapped up. Looks like Brahini and Tyshawn Parson were there to stop him. Ball is at the 26. So that will bring us to 3rd and 7. From the 26, hurry up offense for Monroe. Trips right, Gorhan out of the gun. And he'll go ahead and take the low snap, hands off to Torciello, off tackle right, and makes his way close to the 30. Osaru Napier, one of the guys on the tackle for the Raiders. Ball spotted at the 29, which brings up 4th and 4 for Monroe, and they will once again be forced to punt. So 4 possessions for the Falcons, 4 punts. Brandon Scott will punt. He stands at his own 14. Tyree Geeston back deep for the Raiders, and he is at his own 42. Getting the snap is Scott, and he'll angle this towards the near side. Note straight down the middle. Geeston catches it at the 40 and breaks one tackle. 45 and tackled there. Myers on the tackle for Monroe. So the Raiders will have it 1st and 10 from their own 45-yard line with 9:06 remaining in the first half. And again, the Raiders lead it by a score of 14-0. Glad you're with us at jamesisking.com. We're also on Facebook. You'll see us under King James Radio Network and on Twitter at King James Radio 1. Looks like almost a full house on the North Brunswick side of the bleachers. It's a small bleacher section, but yet, the Raider Nation seems to have packed it in the student section, dressed in white. Raider Nation. 1st and 10 from the 45 for North Brunswick, leading 14-0. Trips to the left. Petrillo will work out of the gun. Takes the snap, looking, pumps, fakes, looks, throws it over the middle, and incomplete. Intended for Brandon Outlaw. And that'll bring up 2nd down and 10 for the Raiders from their own 45. 9:02 remaining in the half. So North Brunswick trying to stretch the lead here. Again, 3 receivers left. Arnold to the left of Petrillo out of the gun, hands off to Arnold on the draw, breaks a tackle at the 50, comes over to the near side, 45, 40, Arnold running 30, down to the near side, 20, cuts it back in the 15, he is tackled. Chris Arnold broke a tackle near the line of scrimmage. And only James Myers stopped him from getting into the end zone. Chris Arnold is a beast. I said it last week, I'll say it this week. Ball at the 13-yard line. So that is a 42-yard run for Arnold. 1st and 10 at the Monroe 13. Petrillo with Arnold to the right. And he'll take the snap, rolling right now. He's going to run 15, cuts it in, 10, 5, and he'll go in the end zone. Touchdown, North Brunswick Raiders. Christian Petrillo from 13 yards out. It's 6 for Chich, and the Raiders now lead it 20-0. Petrillo's 2nd rushing touchdown of the year. And Aaron R. will come on to kick the extra point. We have 8:36 remaining here in the second. Snap. Petrillo spot. R with a line drive kick, and it hits the upright. No good. A line drive kick hitting the left upright. And so the extra point, no good. So with 8:36 remaining here in the second quarter, North Brunswick 20, Monroe nothing. We will break, and we'll come back in just a moment. You're listening to North Brunswick Raiders football, and it's on the King James Radio Network.
This is the King James Radio Network, your radio home for North Brunswick Raiders sports. Restoration Place, Timothy Christian Tigers basketball, the Cal Ripken Baseball District Championships, the Ladies of Our Turf football, and the Jersey Basketball Association.
Aaron R. will kick this one away with 8:36 to go in the half. North Brunswick 20 and Monroe nothing. R will kick from right to left. Spalletti and Torciello back deep. It'll go over the head of Spalletti into the end zone, and it will be a touchback. So the Falcons will have it 1st and 10 from their own 20-yard line. Clock did not move, so 8:36 remaining here in the second quarter. And the Raiders lead it. Again, 20-0. The freshman team from Monroe beat North Brunswick today over at North Brunswick Township High School. Looks like we got a penalty against the Raiders here. And Monroe. So penalties offset. There's a personal foul on Monroe, but I didn't quite catch the call against North Brunswick there. But it's offsetting penalties. So the ball will be at the Monroe 20-yard line. So again, 1st and 10 with 8:36 to go here in the half. Coming up at halftime, you'll hear from Mike Kinney of NJ.com and the Star Ledger, NJ Advanced Media, about the proposed merger between the Greater Middlesex Conference and the Mid-State Conference. Coming up, as Gorhan will work out of the shotgun here with Torciello behind him to his left. Low snap, takes it, throws it left, completes it, and dodging to 20 to 25. Napier getting there on the tackle. That looks like Spalletti. Check that, Brandon Scott. So hurry up for Monroe. Ball at the 24. Well, all right, 25. We'll call it 2nd and 5. From the 25. 3 receivers right for the Falcons. Torciello to the right of Gorhan. Gorhan will work out of the shotgun here. Calling signals, hands out, low snap, hands off to Torciello, and is met at the line of scrimmage by Tyrell Pereira.
Short gain on the play, bring up 3rd down and 5 for the Falcons.
So, looks like no gain, 3rd and 5 from the 25 with 7:35 to go before halftime. Again, trips to the right. Torciello to the right of Gorhan. Gorhan will take the snap, fakes the handoff to Torciello, looking, steps up in the pocket, rolling left, throws it left, and tipped and incomplete, almost intercepted. Brandon Outlaw almost had the pick. There is a flag down. Matthew McHale was the intended receiver. And now the refs will talk over the flag. From all indications, it looks like it's against the Raiders. So let's see. Sideline warning against the Raiders, it looks like. That's what it looks like.
First down, Falcons!
Well, maybe it's not a warning, but a 15-yard penalty, and it'll be 1st and 10, Monroe from their own 40-yard line. And so Gorhan will work out of the shotgun here. Torciello behind him, takes the snap, hands off to Torciello, and maybe a couple of yards before Tyshawn Parson wraps him up. So minimal gain there. Ball is spotted at the 43-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and 7 with 6:53 remaining in the half. Monroe has all 3 of their timeouts. 2 in the backfield. Petchko is back there. As Gorhan, before the snap, flag down. Brandon Scott back there as well. And penalty on Monroe. Looks like movement on the Monroe line. That'll bring it to 2nd and 12 from the 38. So again, Petchko and Scott in the backfield, this time a split backfield. Myers lined up wide to the right. Gorhan will work out of the gun. 2nd and long here, claps his hands, points left, and we get a flag. Looks like movement on the line. This time it might be on the Raiders. So let's see what call we got. Referees will talk this one over. A flag-littered first half here, primarily on North Brunswick, but Monroe's gotten a few calls as well. As the 3 officials talk it over, they're going to pick up the flag. They will pick up the flag, no call, no penalty. So we remain at 2nd and 12 from the 38 with 6:38 remaining in the half. Myers again lined up to the right. Petchko and Scott behind Gorhan. Gorhan out of the gun, takes the snap, dropping back, looks, and dumps it right. And almost a lateral, if you will, to Scott, and he is tackled immediately. Leon Lowry making the tackle. That time, he just didn't have time to look downfield and find a man. That is a loss of 14. 3rd and 26 from the 24. Monroe has to get to the 50-yard line for a first down. 6:03 to go here in the second quarter. Petchko is back there behind Gorhan, who will work out of the shotgun here on 3rd and 26. Gorhan takes the snap, rolls left. Here comes the rush. Gorhan looking, throws it downfield, way downfield to the far side, incomplete. Intended for Brandon Scott. Miles Bailey on the coverage. And it'll be 4th down and 26. And the Falcons will punt. So Scott will stay on the punt. Miles Bailey will stay on for the return. Check that. Tyree Geaston once again on the return. Geaston standing at his own 47. Scott back at the 10 for Monroe. Takes the snap to Scott, and here comes the rush, and he's knocked down, flagged down. They're going to call roughing the kicker there. Geaston is tackled back at his own 40. That's not going to matter. We're going to get a roughing the kicker call here on the Raiders. A couple of guys came right at him. And so roughing the kicker is the call. And so we'll see where they spot this. I believe it will be a Monroe. Well, let me not say that. Ball was at the 24. So if it's 15 yards, it's not going to be enough for a first down. It is 15 yards to the 39, which will make it 4th and 11. So Monroe will have to kick it again, or will they go for it? They're going to go for it here. Is it? No, it is a first down. Okay, they changed the marker, so it is a first down. So 1st and 10 then. And North Brunswick will call time, so that is a first down. They changed the down marker. 1st and 10 from the 39. The Raiders call their second time out of the half. So we will take a short break here, and we'll come back to Monroe in just a moment with Raiders football on the King James Radio Network. 5 minutes, 32 seconds left to go in the second quarter. North Brunswick leads it 20-0 here over Monroe. Monroe, after getting the benefit of a roughing the kicker call, will have it 1st and 10 from their own 39-yard line. Dylan Gorhan will work out of the shotgun here with Petchko behind him. 2 receivers bunched right. Low snap. Looking left, and Leon Lowry will bring him down in the backfield. So Lowry gets the sack. Ball spotted back at the 35-yard line. So a 4-yard loss. 2nd down and 14 for Lowry. That's his 2nd sack of the year. So Gorhan will work out of the gun with a split backfield. Scott to the left and Torciello to the right. But check that Spoletti, and he's going to be sacked again after the snap. This time 2 guys back there. Samad Wingo and Lowry this time. And Gorhan never had a chance. So Lowry on back-to-back plays, getting back there. This one is a loss of 10. 3rd and 24 now from the 25. 4:22 to go in the half. 2 receivers left for the Falcons here. Gorhan will work with Spoletti behind him. No, 3 receivers left. And Gorhan out of the shotgun will hand off to Spoletti on a draw and maybe a yard. Tyler Jordan on the tackle. And so that'll bring up 4th and long. And once again, Monroe will punt. Ball spotted at the 27, so a gain of 2. 4th and 22. from the 27. And once again, Brandon Scott, who's had a busy night, he's back deep for Monroe, standing at his own 13. Miles Bailey back on the return at the Raider 44. High snap. Scott will kick it to the near sideline here. Bailey will let it go. Stays in bounds, rolling towards the near side, and out of bounds inside the 30. So Monroe, after that first touchdown on the punt return from Bailey, have not kicked it to him since. 1st and 10 from the 28 for North Brunswick. We have 3:24 remaining here in the first half. So the Raiders have been able to hold the fort on defense. And Mike Saipot, if you heard him in our pregame, wants to see consistency from his offense. It'll be 1st and 10 from the 28. Bailey to the right of Petrillo. 2 receivers left. Now in motion is Outlaw. Takes the snap. Hands off to Outlaw. Running right, trying to get around the corner, but he is brought down. Petchko brings him down. Brian Petchko. So looks like that'll be a loss of 1 for Outlaw. 2nd and 11 from the 27-yard line. 2:58 left in the half. The Raiders have 1 timeout. Trips to the left. Petrillo with Bailey. Now circling to his right. To the right of Chich. Chich looking around. Now out of the gun. Takes the snap. Hands off to Bailey on the draw. Goes up the middle and drags him into the 25. Tackled there by Corey Thompson, number 22.
Tackled by Malanga Thompson.
So, ball at the 35, gain of 8. It'll be 3rd and 3. A long 3. Split backfield for Petrillo here. Arnold to the right, Bailey to the left. R is wide right, and hand off to Bailey. 35, 40, 45, runs to the Brahini, 50, 45, trying to sidestep 40, and he is tackled there at the Monroe 40-yard line. Looked like Matthew McHale might have got a hand on him there to slow Bailey down, but another big run by number 2 to the Monroe 39. Gain of 26, 1st and 10 from the Falcons 39-yard line with 1:59 to go here in the first half. So the Raiders in business. Now we get a whistle. Oh, they want to start the clock, I believe. So clock running. And now they'll stop it with 1:48 left in the first half. Monroe has been outscored 98-26 in their first 2 games. 3 receivers bunched left. Chich out of the gun, fakes the handoff. He'll roll right, looking, backs up and throws it downfield, and it is caught. Caught at the 15, 10, 5, touchdown, North Brunswick Raiders. That is Tyree Geaston. Chich was somehow able to find Geaston open after rolling out. And the Raiders now lead it 26-0. So a 39-yard pass from Christian Petrillo to Tyree Geaston. And he didn't have to make an acrobatic catch this time. Caught it in the open space and ran it in for the score. The Raiders will go for 2 here. And low snap, they get it to Bailey. He goes up the middle. Did he cross the goal line? He did. 2-point conversion, good. So Bailey gets the 2 points. And with 1:32 remaining, here in the second quarter, the Raiders now lead it 28-0 over Monroe. So we will break, and we will come back in just a moment. You're listening to North Brunswick Raiders football, and it's on the King James Radio Network. Back to Monroe High School as we have a minute and 32 seconds remaining in the first half. This has been all Raiders, 28-0. They lead it. So Aaron R. will kick. Torciello to the near side. And Spalletti to the far side for Monroe. R will kick it from right to left. And so R runs into one. It's a line drive kick. It'll go to Spalletti at the 10-yard line. Comes back towards the middle, 15, 20, and down at the 25-yard line. DeMonte Blunt able to hit him and knock him down. So Monroe will have it. First down and 10. Monroe has all three of their timeouts, so they'll try to put something together here before the half. First and 10 Monroe from their own 26. We mentioned Monroe outscored 98-26 in their first two games. And so the Falcons, their last win came on the final game of last season, beating Notre Dame 41-19. The last time Monroe was shut out in a game would be the game against Old Bridge last year, second game of the year. That was back on September 15th of last year. Gorin will work out of the shotgun with Torciello to his right. Agnew wide right, low snap, and looking for Agnew. Now he's going to be sacked. Leon Lowry once again. Sack number 2.5 for Lowry. And so Lowry, the junior, is back at the 18-yard line. Loss of 8, second and 18 from the 18. With a minute to go in the second. Doesn't look like Monroe is in any, they're running a, quasi no huddle here. Gorhan out of the gun with Torciello behind him. And Scott to the right. No snap yet. And now he'll take the snap. Hands off to Torciello. Off tackle left, 20. And breaks a couple of tackles. Gets to the 25 before Tyler Jordan brings him down. And we get a whistle. Timeout, North Brunswick. They'll try to get the ball back, it looks like here. And this might be where the Born Power Index comes into play. Because the Raiders know they have to win by a certain amount of points to move up in the Born Power Index. And that might be why Mike Sipot is calling a timeout here to try to get the ball back. So ball at the 26. It's a gain of 8 for Torciello. It will be third down and 11. So this Born Power Index clock will be reset to 32 seconds left in the half. But this Born Power Index has thrown some things into chaos around New Jersey. For those that don't know, 60% of your ranking towards the state playoffs is in the hands of the Born Power Index, which nobody knows the actual formula to. Some people think they're close to having it. Mike Sipot alluded to that in the pregame with linebackers and special teams coach Chris Marr. He is the PowerPoints guru for the Raiders coaching staff. Thinks he might have a beat on it, but nobody has it down to an exact science because nobody knows what it is. But that being said, the Raiders may feel like they have to run up the score tonight just to keep pace in the Born Power Index. Third and 11 from the 26. So in other words, if you're Dan Lee and Monroe, it's nothing personal. Third and 11 from the 26. Gorhan out of the gun with Torciello to his right. 32 seconds left in the half. Takes a snap, dumps it to Torciello, cuts it back inside to the 30 and is dropped at about the 32. Sean Brahini there on the tackle. And Mike Sipot has already used, Monroe calls a timeout. Monroe calls a timeout with 24 seconds left in the half. The only way that makes sense is if you're going for it. The only way that timeout makes sense is if you're going for it and you want to try to score. Because otherwise, why would you call a timeout to give them the ball back? So ball is spotted at the 31. It'll be 4th and 6. Scott will punt.
On to return the punt for the Raiders.
And so Bailey back deep for the Raiders, standing at his own 42. Scott takes the snap and punts this away to the near sideline. Bailey will not have a chance at this one. It actually stays in bounds, and it'll be down at the North Brunswick 45.
Down by the Falcons.
Zachary Seppi downing that one.
Comes down by number 23, Seppi.
He has an older sister, Erin Seppi, whose name you might have heard on the King James Radio Network once upon a time. Plays basketball. Well, she did play basketball for Monroe. She's graduated now. But the Raiders will have it 1st and 10
Don't forget, today will be our home
from the 46-yard line for the Raiders. We'll see if they take a knee here or do they decide to try to put some points up. With 14 seconds left in the half and no timeouts. So Christian Petrillo back out with Chris Arnold lined up to his right. Looks like the Raiders going to run something here. Aaron R. wide to the left. 3 receivers right. Petrillo out of the gun, takes the snap, dropping back. He's going to heave it. Left side looking for R against Myers. Myers knocks it away. Flag down, incomplete. Pass interference. Looks like it's going to be called here. Pass intended for R, working against James Myers. It will be pass interference on Monroe, so the Raiders getting the next best scenario there, drawing the flag. With 7 seconds left in the half, that brings it down to the Monroe 15-yard line. So that penalty cost Monroe 39 yards. Oh, wait a minute. They're going to bring it back. He was standing at the 15-yard line with the ball. I was wondering what. All right, so ball will come to the Monroe 39 then, a 15-yard penalty. So trips to the right. Petrillo will once again work out of the gun. Arnold to his right, so this will be a Hail Mary here with 7 seconds left in the half. Petrillo dropping back, now rolling left. Looking, he'll step up and throw it towards the end zone. And looking, and it's bobbled and incomplete. Lowry almost had it. He was in front of the goal line, so he would have still had to catch, turn, and run. But bobbled by Lowry, incomplete, and that will do it for the first half. And so, at halftime, North Brunswick 28, Monroe nothing. There will not be a running clock to start the second half. But, with that being said, I had a chance to catch up with Mike Kinney of the Star Ledger, NJ.com, and NJ Advanced Media to talk to him about the proposed merger between the Greater Middlesex Conference and the Mid-State Conference. The Mid-State Conference and the GMC will be merging as one in 2021. They will be known as the Big Central Football Conference 3 years from now. So I had a chance to talk to Mike Kinney of NJ Advanced Media about that. And so you will hear that conversation coming up in just a second. But again, the Raiders lead it 28-0 at the half. So let's get you over to Mike Kinney from NJ.com. And then when we come back, we'll have some halftime numbers and we will bring you the second half.
Joining us here on the broadcast is Mike Kinney of NJ Advanced Media or the Star Ledger or NJ.com, any of those outlets, and you can catch him on Twitter at Mike Kinney. That's Mike, M-I-K-E, K-I-N-N-E-Y, H-S. That's his handle on Twitter. Mr. Kinney, thank you. I appreciate a few minutes.
Oh, glad to be here, Corbett.
I'll ask you the first thing. Now, most of my conversation will gear towards the new proposed merger that is scheduled to happen in 2021 between the Mid-State Conference. I'm not sure they're still calling themselves the Mid-State 38 or just Mid-State, but I'll go with Mid-State.
Pretty much just the Mid-State now because it's actually down to 37 because Pingree left the conference, so it's really 37 teams. So, yeah, they're pretty much calling themselves the Mid-State Conference now.
Right, so the Mid-State and the GMC, and the Greater Middlesex Conference, the proposed merger that is scheduled to take place in 2021, still 3 years away, but I wanted to kind of get a handle on this early. In terms of forming the Big Central Football Conference, it will be called, is this, and just judging from what I was reading in your article, is this a matter of keeping up with the Joneses, where you mentioned in the article that the GMC is the smallest conference now in the state? So is this just a matter of keeping up with the Joneses, or is there something other than that?
Not really. I think for the GMC, it's a bit of a lifeline that's kind of necessity right now, and that's because the Joneses got so big. The problem with their Joneses getting so big is that, in the GMC, where you're talking about, there's only 3 Group 1 schools. There's only 2 Group 3 schools, Carteret and South Plainfield. If they have to pick up other games, or if they're in the situation where in their conference they're playing bigger schools, and for a particular year that happen to be considerably larger, considerably stronger, hard for them now because of the big Joneses out there to find crossover games. So now with the mid-state, joining them, in 3 years, that broadens that pool of teams in those groups, let's say in Group 1, in Group 3, in Group 2, which the GMC has a little tough time filling out. Now, automatically you've got competition. And because it'll be so large, 61 teams, you have that you have that flexibility to not only do it by enrollment, but you can do it by enrollment and, past performance or historical performance. So you can have some of those larger Group 5 schools that do struggle, like a J.P. Stevens, let's say, as opposed to a Piscataway, or as opposed to a Westfield, or as opposed to a South Brunswick. Now they can be in maybe a little lower division than in, let's say the GMC Reds. So, there is that. I think for the GMC, it's a necessity. For the mid-state, it's a little more of a luxury. But, you kind of got to keep up with the Joneses these days in New Jersey.
One of the questions I was going to ask you, and again, going back to your article, Scott Miller, who is the athletic director and the head football coach at Brearley, he mentioned you had quoted him as saying that, I'm paraphrasing that, like you just said, that the Mid-State Conference, they could survive on their own without this. But so I was going to ask you if the GMC needs this more than the Mid-State Conference does, and not so much the other way around.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There's no doubt about it because of the disparity in groups. You look at the GMC, there's of their 24 teams, 11 of them are Group 5 schools. So there's going to be a disparity now among the rest of the groups. And like I said, there's only 3 Group 1 schools in the GMC. Very tough now for Denellen. Very tough now for Highland Park, obviously, which is struggling more so than any right now because they're down to the JV schedule. Tough for them to find those crossover games. They had that agreement with the Shore Conference for a couple of years. It worked pretty well, but I think geographically this is going to be a little better situation for the GMC. So, yeah, there's no doubt about it. With the GMC, they need to do this.
Now, are there what I would call glitches in this? In other words, will some teams still fall through the cracks, or is this going to be as perfect as it gets?
Difficult to say whether there'll be glitches because right now all they really have is a name, and they're still meeting. So there's a lot of work to be done. They still have a constitution to forge. They still have bylaws to do. So there's a lot of work that's going to go into it. But I'm looking at it this way. If I look at the GMC and I look at the Mid-State, I'm looking at 2 very well-run conferences. I'm looking at conferences with ADs that I deal with who I really trust as far as what their vision is and what their incentive is, which is to have the best possible league possible for the kids. So if they're together, if these 10 people, the committee's together as 10, 5 from each conference, and they're, putting their experience together and putting their motives together, I think it's going to end up being a very good thing. If there's glitches, I think they'll find them in the process of building this over the next 3 years. That's why they've given themselves such a wide span, because they're smart, they're wise, and they're careful. They're saying, let's make sure we get this right. I think when it's launched in 2021, it's going to be an outstanding conference.
You segued right into my next question, and that would be, I was going to ask you if this is a proper time frame. Like I was going to ask you if this could have been moved up a little quicker, or have they set the right time frame? It sounds like you think that they're doing this, according to what it should be.
Exactly. Yeah. Could they have done it quicker? Yeah, probably could have. Probably could have done it quicker for at least for the 2020 season. I think probably without a great deal of difficulty, but they do want to be cautious. They want to make sure that it's as correct as possible. They want to make sure not only that it's correct among the members of the 10 committee, but if I talk to any of them, if I talk to Scott Miller, if I talk to Elaine McGrath, if I talk to Dave DiNapoli from Denellen, their feeling is that it's not about us 10, we 10 in the room. We're trying to get it right so that all 61 teams involved are pleased with how it came out and are pleased with the competition and the way it's run. So, yeah, they gave themselves probably an extra year just to be sure it's right. And in the meantime, we're going to see some pretty interesting crossover games between the GMC and the Mid-State starting this year and over the next 2 years once that schedule's made. So we're going to see some of the excitement building with some competition that either hasn't been played in a long time or is going to be brand new. So they'll get it right.
Yeah, I was going to say with 61 teams, that's a mighty big room. Talking with Mike, talking with Mike Kinney of NJ.com, NJ Advanced Media. Do you see any? It sounds like everybody's on the same page. Do you see anyone in the jury, so to speak, changing their vote between now and then? Sometimes in a court case, you might get that one person on the jury that this looks at the evidence and says, no, I don't see it. Any potential of that happening?
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely true. And when I asked that specific question to the panel, to some of the people I spoke with, and yesterday I spoke with Scott Miller and Elaine McGrath, I asked them specifically that: are you hearing any fallback on that? Are there any people with a grievance over it? And they said, well, you've got a couple of people maybe from the GMC who are a little reluctant about moving. They like how it runs. They're proud of the history of the GMC, and but it's only hesitancy. They only want to be sure, is this going to be the right move? And so there's going to be a little nostalgia there, but it's going to be a great conference. Now, a little less so with the Mid-State, because the people in the Mid-State have already shifted around over the last 10, 15 years from conference to conference to make the Mid-State. And if you look at it also, we're talking about two different conferences already involved that comprise the Mid-State. We're talking about the Skyland Conference and the Union County Conference. It used to be there was the Skyland, there was the Northern Hills, there were the Watchung Conference. They all, over the last few years, transformed into this. So the Mid-State, they're a little more progressive, I think, about, hey, let's make it right. Whatever it's called, that's cool. GMC, a little different because there's a little more historical perspective on that. But I think in the long run, hey, all 61 teams get to vote. So if there are grievances, they're going to air them when it comes time to vote for the Constitution, to vote for the bylaws, to vote for the scheduling. When it comes down to this, each team in this conference is going to have a voice. So we'll have a chance to hear it.
Speaking of the scheduling aspect of it, I'm trying to think now. I mean, this is 3 years away, so we probably don't have any great details on this. But do you anticipate there being, like for example, in the GMC, you play a lot of the same teams each and every year, whether it's in division, and in some cases you might play a crossover team every year. Will you see a different schedule each year, or is it more or less the same core group of teams?
Oh, I think when it comes down to it, you're going to see divisions just like you do in the GMC. You're going to see a GMC, let's say a GMC Red division, or a Watchung division in the Mid-State packed with Group 5 talent, and it's even going to be more so because now you're going to be talking about Piscataway, South Brunswick, Sayreville, and the other side, Westfield, Bridgewater, Elizabeth, Linden. It's going to be a super division. Same thing with the smaller schools. You're going to see Denellen. You're going to see Middlesex. You're going to see Brearley. You're going to see, some really good small school football as well. So there'll be divisions, and I think within that you'll see tradition beginning to build, just like you do in the GMC Red. But at the same time, there'll be that flexibility of teams moving up and down within there when they do struggle, when you have those situations where they struggle. like, for instance, in the GMC where the red and the white, you have a couple teams that go back and forth depending on how they've done. You'll see that same situation in the Big Central.
Yep, and so there you have the gist of what's going on with this potential merger for the Big Central Football Conference. Again, that's going to be in 3 years from now, 2021. I'll switch gears here with Mike Kinney, and we were talking before we started. We were talking about the Born Power Index, and not too many people seem to be able to figure it out. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Is there some good that can come out of this? Or is it still to be determined?
Yeah, it's definitely to be determined. There's no doubt about it. I think the jury's still out on it. And as we were talking earlier, a lot of that is because we do not know specifically what the Born Index is. He has his rights to it. He's not revealing the secrets behind it. So we're trying to pick through it and determine what it's based on. And there's some of it that's based on point spread. Some of it based on a historical perspective of teams of the last few years, but it's not clear cut. And because it's not, there's questions. And if there's questions, then it's certainly not perfect. So it's a definitely wait and see proposition as to how it's going to come out in the wash. There's no doubt about it.
The he that you're referring to being Bill Born, the creator of the Born Power Index. The 60-40 ratio that they're using, 60% being Born Power Index and 40% being your traditional power points to determine playoff standing, state playoff standing, do you think it's here to stay is my basic question? Again,
I would say, it depends on how well it works, how pleased the rest of the state is. I mean, they're going, there's going to be quite an outburst of negative sentiment if this thing is, in 5-6 weeks we see some crazy teams up there at the top who are going to be getting top seeds. So even at the end of this year, I don't know if that'll be a resolved issue. It's going to be a wait and see thing because we just don't exactly know what's in this formula.
And my final question for you is, I know that NJ.com will feature some of the bigger games around the state, each weekend. So, just off the top of your head, which do you have any games that that you guys are focused on this weekend?
Yeah, well, myself, I've got a couple really nice games. I'm covering Union and Phillipsburg. Phillipsburg is our number 5 team in the state. And Union is a team that's 2-1. They beat Linden the first week of the season, and Linden came back the next week and they snapped Westfield's 37-game winning streak. And then on Saturday, I'm going to do North Hunterdon coming in against Summit. So I'm doing a little mid-state this weekend. I've been concentrating on a lot on the GMC the last couple of weeks. But yeah, that's me specifically. That's what I've got. Don Bosco's playing Bergen Catholic. That's a big game, obviously, for our guys up in North Jersey. And there's not as many big top 20 games as there were, like say last week. South Brunswick and Piscataway going at it. It's a little late in terms of that, but I'm excited about the 2 games I'm going to see.
Now, in your estimation, we talk about size as opposed to talent. In terms of the GMC, and I'm specifically the GMC just because I'm here in North Brunswick, but in terms of the GMC, do you see, I guess, their talent, their players, their talent matching up with some of the talent in the other conferences?
No doubt about it. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Now we're talking. Obviously, there's only a few non-public schools in the GMC. 2 to be specific. St. Joe's, Bishop Bar, both very good teams. We know from past performances, though, that those teams can't play yet right now with Bergen Catholic, with St. Peter's. Those are loaded programs. The roster's filled with kids and from a wide geographic region. But they're very good football teams. From the public school standpoint, these schools compare with any schools in the state of New Jersey. We know that from what South Brunswick's done. what Piscataway's done, what Saraville's done historically through the years, because they've been on that sectional stage, and they've beaten some teams from, Piscataway has bounced from Central Jersey to North Jersey, and they've handled Elizabeth and Linden and Westfield, and just as well as, in East Orange, just as well as they've handled, Middletown South or Manalapan or those teams. So we know that from historical perspective. Same thing with South Brunswick. No question about it. With the crossovers of the Shore games, the big schools played very well against the small schools, against the big schools in the Shore. Little different. The small schools struggle a little bit. But, the GMC talent can match up with any other public school talent in the state of New Jersey. Lots of athletes here, lots of good football programs, and lots of excellent coaches.
He is Mike Kinney of NJ.com and NJ Advanced Media and the Star Ledger. And you can catch him on Twitter at Mike, M-I-K-E, Kinney, K-I-N-N-E-Y, and then H-S as in high school. Mr. Kinney, I appreciate the time and, great insight. I appreciate it, and thank you.
Oh, pleasure to be here, Corbett. Thank you.
So there you hear from Matt Kinney of the Star Ledger and NJ.com about not only the proposed merger between the GMC and the Mid-State Conference coming up in 2021, but also a little bit about the Born Power Index, which nobody seems to have a complete grasp on. So that is the best kept secret in high school football right now in New Jersey, is the Born Power Index and exactly how it works. Some people feel like they have at least an idea and have it down to a small margin of error, but nobody knows exactly, what it looks like. My thanks, by the way, to Athletic Director Greg Beyer for allowing me to come down and do the game tonight and hear from Monroe. So I believe this is Paul Walsh Stadium, if I saw the sign right out in front before the game tonight. So that's where we are here in Monroe Township, New Jersey. Full house for Monroe. I have to admit, it's a down year for Monroe, but their fans have come out and in droves to support their team, so it's a credit to them. But in any event, we are at halftime. North Brunswick 28, Monroe nothing. So we will take a break. We'll come back with some halftime numbers, and then we'll have the second half here from Monroe in just a moment. You're listening to North Brunswick Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
Dana and Lisa here from Our Turf Football to tell you that the Our Turf podcast is up and running.
Did you know that women make up over 45% of all NFL fans and counting? Here at Our Turf, we have our own take on what's happening around the National Football League, with special features, previews, reports from our official fan reporters covering each team, and interviews with players and personalities who have the scoop on what's happening. Women are in the know when it comes to football, and it's time the rest of the world knew it too.
Our Turf Football is every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the King James Radio Network at jamesisking.com.
It's time for this date in Raiders football history as we take a look back at North Brunswick Raiders football on this date, September the 21st. Well, on September the 21st, 2001, the Raiders defeated Bishop R by a score of 13-7. North Brunswick quarterback Crimson Marrero hit Jason Schoonover on a 16-yard touchdown pass early in the fourth quarter to make the difference. Leon Molina scored the only other touchdown for the Raiders on a 59-yard run in the first quarter. Molina finished the game with 125 yards on 15 carries. September the 21st, 2007, North Brunswick defeated South Plainfield 27-19 behind the running of Pouchon Brown, who ran for 300 yards that night on 37 carries with 3 touchdowns. That is a look at this date in North Brunswick Raiders football history. We'll be back with more of Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
This broadcast is a production of the King James Radio Network, which is solely intended for the private use of its listening audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this audio transmission without the written permission or consent from the King James Radio Network is strictly prohibited.
This week at Restoration Place, Learning God's Ways by Pastor John Bazemore Jr.
You really don't want to go through what you have to go through, to receive the instructions. So you're really trying to bypass the instructions so that you can still do what you want to do.
Restoration Place, on demand on the King James Radio Network at jamesisking.com.
All right, we come back getting ready for the second half as the North Brunswick Raiders lead it 28-0 over the Monroe Falcons. And so we'll see if we can get you some halftime numbers here before we get you ready for the second half. Big numbers for Miles Bailey. Chris Arnold with some limited touches, but big numbers for him as well. And so we'll get you those halftime numbers here. By the way, Raiders football, of course, is presented by the North Brunswick Baseball and Softball Association at nbbsa.com. Thanks to Dave Rosenberg and Dave Kukler, president and vice president, respectively. And also presented by Route 1 Dental. My thanks to Dr. Trackman, Alex, Tara, and all the folks at Route 1 Dental. 732-940-0222 or rt1dental.com. All right, Christian Petrillo, 2 of 6 for the Raiders in the air for 52 yards and a touchdown. 3 carries for 15 yards and a rushing touchdown, so 1 of each for Chich. Miles Bailey, 102 yards so far tonight on 5 carries with a touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown for Bailey. Chris Arnold, 2 carries for 48 yards. And Brandon Outlaw, 1 carry for 1. Tyree Geeston has the 1 catch for 39 yards with a touchdown. Let's see, Aaron R., 1 catch for 13 yards. So all total, 117, 165, 164. The Raiders have 216 yards of total offense. They do have 1 turnover in the first half. Monroe has punted. They punted on all 7 of their possessions in the first half. I won't even bother to get you their numbers. Well, all 6 of their first half possessions. And Monroe will kick here to start the second half. So Brandon Scott will kick it from right to left. And this is a bit of a squib kick over to the far side, goes out of bounds, so the Raiders will get it at their own 35-yard line, 1st and 10. So North Brunswick will start the second half. They'll look to score 1 more. If they score 1 more touchdown and add the extra point, then there will be a running clock for the rest of the second half. So it will be 1st and 10. Raiders from their own 35. And again, North Brunswick leads it by a score of 28-0. Raiders looking to go to 3-1 for the first time since 2010. Actually, they'll bring it out to the 40 here. So 1st and 10 Raiders from the 40. And so 2 wide receivers right for Christian Petrillo. With Miles Bailey to his left. And Chich will work out of the shotgun here. Takes the snap, hands off to Chris Arnold to his left, rather. And Arnold breaks 1 tackle, gets around the edge, and gets to the 45. Brought down at midfield. Tackled by Jagger Agnew. So another run for Chris Arnold there. That will be a Raider first down. Gain of 10. No, gain of 11 to the Monroe 49. So it'll be first down. Arnold now with 60 yards on the night. 1st and 10 from the Monroe 49. Arnold again to the left of Petrillo. Bailey going in motion, but we get a flag. Illegal procedure called against North Brunswick, and so the Raiders still bitten by penalties here. Had quite the number of them in the first half. That'll move it back 5 yards to the North Brunswick 46. So it'll be 1st and 15 for the Raiders from their own 46. 32 seconds gone by here in the third. Split backfield, Bailey and Arnold. Flanking Petrillo, takes the snap, does Chich, and hands off to Bailey, running left, midfield, around the edge, 45, 40, 35, dancing his way to the 30, still alive, 25, out of bounds. Miles Bailey. And Brian Petchko looked like one of the guys getting him out of bounds, but not before Bailey reaches the Monroe 20-yard line. Looks like they'll spot it at the 21. So that would be a gain of 33 for Bailey. which now puts him at 135 yards. First down and 10 Raiders from the 21. Split backfield with Petrillo. Bailey to the left, Arnold to the right. Out of the gun, hands off to Arnold on the draw, and inside the 20, down to about the 16.
Arnold on the carry, stopped by Agnew.
And Agnew once again on the stop. So good game for Chris Arnold as well. Ball is spotted at the 17. It looks like a gain of...
5-yard pickup on the play. Second and 5 for North Brunswick.
Well, we'll call it 2nd and 5 from the 16. So clock runs with 10:45 to go in the third. Split backfield for Petrillo out of the shotgun. Takes the low snap, rolling right, looking, throws it over the middle, end zone, caught, touchdown North Brunswick Raiders. And that is Brandon Outlaw. You've just been outlawed by Brandon Outlaw. And the Raiders lead it by a score of 34-0. So the extra point here would start a running clock in the second half. Outlaw's first touchdown of the year. And so Aaron R. will kick the extra point. Christian Petrillo to hold. And so we'll get the snap, the spot, and the kick to R. No good, missed to the left. It missed to the left, which means the Raiders would have to score another one to get the running clock going in the second half. And so, with that being said, 10:33 remaining in the third quarter. North Brunswick 34 and Monroe nothing. We'll break. We'll come back in a moment on the King James Radio Network.
Dana and Lisa here from Our Turf Football to tell you that the Our Turf podcast is up and running.
Did you know that women make up over 45% of all NFL fans and counting? Here at Our Turf, we have our own take on what's happening around the National Football League with special features, previews, reports from our official fan reporters covering each team, and interviews with players and personalities who have the scoop on what's happening. Women are in the know when it comes to football, and it's time the rest of the world knew it too.
Our Turf Football is every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the King James Radio Network at jamesisking.com.
Picking up the kickoff at the 14-yard line and running across the 30.
Already on the return. He's tackled by number 7, Session.
On the return is Matt Spalletti. Samir Session making the tackle. Crosses the 30. Gets the ball to about the 35-yard line for Monroe, where the Falcons will have it 1st and 10 with 10:24 remaining in the third quarter. And the Raiders leading it 34-0 here. The last shutout win for North Brunswick, in case you're wondering, we will get to in a moment. 1st and 10 Monroe from the 35. Dylan Gorhan will work out of the shotgun with Torciello behind him. And Gorhan takes the snap, hands off to Torciello straight up the middle, 35 to about the 37. Stood up there. Sean Berhini brings him down. And Monroe, of course, coming into tonight, a lot of inexperience with juniors and sophomores. Undersized linemen and such. Going up against the bigger teams in the white division. 2nd and 7 from the 38. Twin receivers left. Gorhan out of the gun. Torciello behind him. Takes the snap and throws it left. Completes it at the 40, 45, and tackled near the sideline at midfield by Sean Berhini. Pass complete to Matthew McHale.
First down, Falcons!
So you hear right there, first down Monroe. McHale makes the catch and gets to the 48. Gain of 10, 1st and 10. Monroe from their own 48. We'll get to that last shutout for the Raiders in a moment. As Torciello goes to the left here of Gorin. And again, twin receivers left, including Brandon Scott. Out of the shotgun, Gorin takes the snap, fakes the handoff, but he's going to be tackled in the backfield. Looked like he just started to run, and Leon Lowry gets his 3rd and a half sack of the night. Lowry has spent a lot of time in the Monroe backfield tonight. Loss of 5, 2nd and 15 from the 43. And so Goran will once again work out of the shotgun here. 2 receivers right, Torsiello behind him. Goran takes the snap, hands off to Torsiello, and he's wrapped up. Tyshawn Parson was the first one there, and Lowry finishes it off. Ball at the 42. So it looks like a loss of 1, 3rd and 14. And this game has been all Raiders. 8:31 and counting to go in the third. 2 receivers right. 2 in the backfield, split backfield behind Gorhan, out of the shotgun, dropping back, 5-step drop, and looks, trying to scramble, rolling right, looking, throws it right side, and caught near the sideline on the far side. Agnew on the catch. So Jagger Agnew making the catch at the North Brunswick 40. So 1st and 10 Monroe from the Raider 40-yard line. Again, split backfield. Scott and Torsiello to the left and right behind Gorhan. He takes the snap. Again, 5-step drop. Looking. He's going to run. Running is chased down by Lowry. Leon Lowry at it again. Looks like a loss of 3 back to the 44. A loss of 4. Four and a half sacks tonight for Lowry. 2nd and 14 from the 44. Again, split backfield behind Gorhan. Torsiello and Scott out of the gun. Takes the snap, dumps it behind him to Scott, and crosses the North Brunswick 45 to the 40. Brought down there. Napier, Brahini, and Pereira all bringing him down.
3rd down and 9 to go for the Falcons.
So that brings it to the 39. Gain of 5, 3rd and 9 from the Raider 39. 7:08 to go in the third. Raiders lead it 34-0. Split backfield behind Gorhan. Takes the snap and dropping back, looking. He's going to throw it left side. Intercepted! Back the other way. That's Sean Brahini, midfield. 40, still in bounds. 35, 30, dropped the ball, fumble. Picked up by the Raiders. Brahini got it to about the 25. And Osaru Napier picked up the fumble to keep it for North Brunswick. But the interception to Sean Brahini. For Brahini, his first interception of the year. He has a fumble recovery to go with that. And so the Raiders forced the turnover. And they'll have it 1st and 10 from the Monroe 24-yard line. So 1st and 10, North Brunswick from the Monroe 24. Petrillo with a split backfield out of the gun, takes the snap and hands off to Bailey running right. Breaks one tackle, breaks a couple, still on his feet and brought down. Myers getting some help, brings him down around the 20. So that will bring up 2nd down. 2nd down and 6, ball at the 20-yard line.
2 more baskets for the rest of the game. 5 chances for $5. Stop the cheer, Mom.
So 2nd and 6 from the 20. 3 receivers bunched left. Bailey to the left of Petrillo. Out of the gun, takes the snap. Chich rolling left, looking, still rolling towards the sideline, trying to stiff arm a man, and falls down, trying to backtrack. And so on the tackle for Monroe, Vale Aaliyah on the tackle. Looked like Petrillo lost his footing backtracking, and it looks like it will be 3rd down, ball back. So you're looking at about 3rd and roughly 19 from the 33. Petrillo out of the gun, keeps it himself, goes up the middle 30, left side 20, cuts it back in, and is tackled at about the 17. Tackle made by Zach Seppi. So that will bring it inside the 20 to about the 18. Gain of 15 on that. For Chich, it'll be 4th and 4 with 4:58 to go in the third, and it looks like the Raiders will go for it as they try to reach that 35-point threshold and start the running clock. So 4th and 4 from the 18. The Raiders will go for it here. Chris Arnold to the left of Petrillo. Tyree Geeston wide to the left, out of the gun. Chich gives to Arnold. He's got room on the left side, cuts it back inside 15. Got the first down at about the 13. So Chris Arnold getting first down yardage. Looks like ball will be spotted at the 14-yard line. So he needed 4. He got 4. 1st and 10 Raiders from the Monroe 14-yard line. 4:26 to go in the third. 3 receivers, 2 to the right. Split backfield for Petrillo, Bailey and Arnold. And hand off to Bailey, trying to go around the edge. Left side, cuts it back into the 10. Flag down. Bailey still on his feet. Going to the 5, out of bounds there. But there is a flag down, so this will probably come back. Holding against the Raiders. And that's one thing that the Raiders will have to clean up for next week at homecoming against Woodbridge. We'll have to clean up the penalties. So that will move it back. The original line of scrimmage was the 14-yard line. It's going to come all the way back to looks like the 26 perhaps. So a net loss of 12, 1st and 22 from the 26. Looks like 4 wide receivers here for the Raiders, 2 to each side. Bailey, check that. That is DeMonte Blount to the right of Petrillo. Out of the shotgun, low snap, throws it right side, completes it. And that is Aaron R. Breaks 1 tackle, crosses the 20 down to about the 10. Myers on the stop. So catch and run for Aaron R. Ball is at the 10-yard line, it looks like. Gain of 16, 2nd and 6 from the 10. 3:40 to go in the third. And again, the Raiders lead at 34-0. So Petrillo with Chris Arnold to his left. It's been different packages. Out of the gun, takes the snap, hands off to Arnold, skips right and inside the 10, inside the 5, making his way, pushing his way into the end zone. Touchdown, North Brunswick Raiders. Chris Arnold puts it in from 10 yards out. Arnold just muscled his way into the end zone. And the Raiders now lead at 40-0, which means that there will be a running clock the rest of the way unless Monroe can score 6 points. And so Aaron R. will come on to kick the extra point. Petrillo to hold. Snap, spot, R's kick. Looks like this one is good. Let's wait. There we go. So the kick is good with 3:18 to go in the third quarter. North Brunswick 41, Monroe nothing. And we will break, and we will come back here to John Walsh Stadium. I think it's John Walsh Stadium. In just a moment. This is Raiders football on the King James Radio Network. I have it on good authority. It is Hugh Walsh Stadium. I was thinking of the guy from America's Most Wanted, John Walsh. Hugh Walsh Stadium we are in, as the Raiders take a 41-0 lead. Running clock now once this ball is kicked off. Running clock here for the rest of the second half, again, unless Monroe can score a touchdown. Aaron R. will kick it from left to right. And this is a booming kick. It'll take a bounce past the 10 into the end zone for a touchback. The last time the Raiders had a shutout win would be last year against Woodbridge on senior night, November the 3rd. The last time the Raiders scored 40 points in the game before now was also last year, October the 13th against JFK. They beat the Mustangs 40-13 that night. But they have 41 here. So Monroe will have it as the clock does run, 2:50 to go in the third and counting. 1st and 10 Monroe from the 20-yard line. So the Raiders come out and handle business here. And we'll try to put this one behind them and get ready for Woodbridge at homecoming next week. Gorhan out of the gun here with Torsiello behind him. Takes the snap, hands off to Torsiello, going right, and gets about maybe a couple of yards before he is brought down. Samad Wingo there on the stop. So the Raiders came out and, aside from the penalties, that's the one negative here. Aside from that, the Raiders handled business tonight, at least up to this point. 2nd and 8 from the 22 with 1:59 to go in the third. Gorhan out of the gun. Takes the snap, fakes to Torsiello, looking and throws it over the middle, and it is incomplete. And a flag down at the end, intended for Agnew. I'm not sure. I believe either there was R on the coverage or outlaw, but flag down at the very end. Looks like pass interference against the Raiders. They'll bring it to the 40. We'll wait for the official call. Yep, pass interference against North Brunswick. So, yep. So 15 yards, it looks like. So that would bring it to the 37. Yep. So 1st and 10 on the pass interference call to the 37-yard line. Clock running with the minute. Well, it stopped with 1:46 now running. As out of the shotgun here is Gorhan. Torsiello behind him, takes the snap, hands off to Torsiello up the middle. Parson brings him back. His forward progress takes him a couple of yards before Tyshawn Parson gets a hold of him. And so ball is at the 37, no gain. It'll be 2nd down and 10 from the 37. 2 receivers to the left. Gorhan with Torsiello behind him, working out of the shotgun. Hands out. Takes the snap, dropping back, looking left, throws it left, and it is going to be complete. Across the North Brunswick 30, down to the 25 is Agnew. R and Outlaw on the stop. He got it on a go route there, it looked like, to Agnew. That has been the go-to guy for Gorhan tonight. 1st and 10, they're going to hurry up here. 1st and 10 at the Raider 22. So gain of 41 there. Gorhan takes the snap, hands off. Torsiello running left, 20, and is thrown down. Looked like Napier threw him down inside the 20. Masaru Napier. 2nd and 7 from the 19. Well, we'll call it gain of 4. 2nd and 6 from the 18. And Monroe running a no huddle here. We've got 3 seconds left in the quarter. They'll have to hurry. Gets the snap. There's Gorhan. Buzzer sounds. Rolling right is Gorhan towards the far side. Looking, and forced out of bounds by Tyshawn Parson. And that will end the third quarter. I'll check that Tyrell Pereira, Pereira forced him out. And that ends the third. So we'll find out where the ball is when we come back for the fourth. Again, running clock, 41-0. North Brunswick leads it over Monroe. We'll break. We'll come back with Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
This is Christian Petrillo, and you're listening to North Brunswick Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
We come back to the fourth quarter here at Hugh Walsh Stadium in Monroe. It will be 3rd down and 12 for Monroe from their own 24-yard line, going from left to right. Check that, the North Brunswick 24, excuse me. 3rd and 12 from the North Brunswick 24. Going from left to right here to start the fourth quarter. They're just waiting for the chain gang to catch up. Raiders lead at 41-0. So unless something catastrophic happens that's never been seen before, the Raiders will go to 3-1. Torciello to the right and Brandon Scott to the left of Dylan Gorhan. Gorhan will work out of the shotgun here. Takes a low snap, dropping back, looking, rolling right, scrambling. He'll try to throw it. Right side, looking, end zone. Incomplete into double coverage. Intended there for James Myers. Aaron R. on the coverage. Along with DeMonte Blunt, it looks like. So that would bring up 4th and 12 from the 24. And Monroe, nothing to lose here, will go for it. So Torciello to the left, out of the gun. Taking the snap is Gorhan. Here comes the rush. Gorhan looks, throws it, in zone, and it is caught. Touchdown Monroe. James Myers. James Myers catching that off his back foot in the end zone. And Monroe is on the board. It is now 41-6. The extra point would stop the running clock. We're at 11:06 left to go in the fourth quarter. Brandon Scott will kick the extra point here. Aiden McLaughlin, the backup quarterback for Monroe, is on the hold. Snap, spot by McLaughlin, and Scott's kick is straight through. It's good. 11:06 to go in the fourth quarter. And it's North Brunswick 41, Monroe 7. We'll break, and we'll come back in a moment with Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
Check out the King James Radio Network on social media by giving us a follow on Facebook. And we're also on Twitter at King James Radio 1.
11:06 remains in the fourth quarter, so Monroe gets on the board. It is North Brunswick 41, Monroe 7. On the touchdown pass to James Myers. A 24-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Dylan Gorhan. Watch the onside kick if you're the Raiders here. Monroe has virtually nothing to lose. Brandon Scott will kick it from the 40. It's a squib kick and picked up by Brandon Outlaw. He'll run it across the 35, 40, 45, still on his feet, dragged down in midfield. Tackle made by Anthony Saris, number 19. And so 1st and 10 for the Raiders from the Monroe 40, looks like the 47-yard line. With 10:59 remaining, again, no more running clock here. Unless the Raiders can score another touchdown. Which, again, factors into the Born Power Index. That's a whole nother conversation. They moved it back to the 49, so 1st and 10 Raiders from the Monroe 49. 2 receivers left. And out of the gun, taking a snap, and handoff looks like that's DeMonte Blunt getting the pitch. Corey Thompson on the stop, and it looks like Mike Sipot has gone to the B team here. We got a new quarterback in the game. Now, Rami Berberino was the backup quarterback for North Brunswick. He is hurt. So Jaden Myers looks like the freshman in at quarterback. 3 receivers left. 2nd down. Fakes the handoff. That's Outlaw, rather, getting the pitch. He'll run right. 45-40, 35-30, still on his feet. 20, 10, 5, touchdown North Brunswick Raiders. Brandon Outlaw. But there's a flag down. It's going to come back. So good running from Outlaw, but it'll come back. So Outlaw got the snap. I thought I saw Jaden Myers in there for half a second. I know that the coaches really do like him. And so he might just see some playing time before it's all said and done. Meanwhile, it comes back. Ball is back at the North Brunswick 40-yard line. So you're looking at second down and 19. So out of the shotgun here will be Outlaw with DeMonte Blunt to his right, two receivers, actually three to the left. So Outlaw will take the snap, hands off to Blount, and he crosses the 40 down to about the 42. And Petchko making the stop. So again, DeMonte Blount on the carry. Ball is at the 43-yard line, gain of 3, 3rd and 16, and I think the Raiders would probably be just as content to run out the clock here. Remember, according to the Born Power Index, they were a 28-point favorite, which meant they had to win by 29. They're up by 35 right now, 34. 3rd and 16 from the 43. Trips to the left. Outlaw will work out of the shotgun here. So it looks like Christian Petrillo and the starting unit are done for the night. Outlaw takes the snap, fakes the handoff, and tries to juke him in and breaks a tackle. He's going to throw it. Deep ball, and it's going to be tipped and incomplete. Outlaw was able to get out of that tackle. Pass intended for Marquise Perry, who is a freshman for the Raiders. Val Aliyah on the coverage for Monroe. And it'll be 4th down and 16. The Raiders will have to punt. Aaron R. will kick, standing at his own 30. Torciello back deep for Monroe at his own 25. He'll back up on the high kick from R, let it go, and takes a Raider bounce across the 10, or to the 10, and it will be down there. So 1st and 10 for Monroe from their own 10-yard line with 7:36 remaining in the 4th quarter. And again, the Raiders with a comfortable 41-7 lead. So the series, the all-time series with North Brunswick and Monroe will be even at 11 after tonight. And North Brunswick will snap a personal 6-game losing streak to Monroe. It will be their first win over Monroe since 2003. 15 years ago, and the Raiders won the GMC White Division Championship in 2003. We hope to have at least one or two of the guys on from that 2003 team on a halftime segment sometime at some point during the course of the season, including Raiders head coach Mark Zielinski, who was in his first year in 2003. And we get a flag, looks like either delay of game or... Yep. So, penalty on Monroe. Delay of game as they try to get their personnel on the field. Torciello came in late. So it'll back up 5 yards, or is it half the distance? No, it's 5 yards, which is half the distance to the goal anyway. 1st and 15 from the 5. And so taking the snap is Aiden McLaughlin in at quarterback for Monroe. He hands off and nothing there. Leon Lowry, among others, on the stop. Looks like the handoff went to Anthony Saris. So no gain, 2nd and 15 from the 5 with 6.5 to go in the 4th. So at this point, the Raiders just want to run it out and get on the bus and go home. We get a whistle here. Timeout. Okay. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe the Raiders want to stay here. Timeout, North Brunswick. I said maybe they want to get on the bus and go home, but maybe they want to hang out here for a little while. Timeout, Raiders. 6:22 remains in the fourth. 41-7, North Brunswick. We'll break, and we'll come back in a moment with Raiders football on the King James Radio Network. It looks like a few people have left. Not many. It looks like a few people have left, heading for the exits to beat the traffic home. But 6:22 remains in the fourth. Second and 15 for Monroe from the 5-yard line. McLaughlin takes the snap, keeps it himself, running left and slides down, it looks like, at about roughly the 8-yard line. Number 56 is Daniel Urbina for the Raiders. Urbina is a junior. So ball is spotted at about the 9. Gain of 4. We'll call it 3rd and 11. McLaughlin will work out of the shotgun here. With a back behind him, takes the snap and will hand off on the draw. Has a hole up the middle. 15, 20, 25. Tackled there is Saris. Getting first down yardage. Tackled by number 81 for North Brunswick, Karan Barber, I should say. So 1st and 10 Monroe, and handoff on the draw. This one goes nowhere against Saris on the carry. On the tackle, Mike Gonzalez for the Raiders. Ball back at the 33, loss of 2, 2nd and 12. Saris again in the backfield. This time they fake the handoff to McLaughlin. He throws it right, completes it, but it's not going to be much there. Barber on the tackle. Pass was complete. Pass was complete for Monroe to number 16, Andrew Daly. So it'll be 3rd and long here for the Falcons. Ball is at the 24-yard or 34-yard line. Gain of 1, 3rd and 11. McLaughlin takes the snap. He's going to throw a deep ball right side, and it is incomplete. Knocked away at the last second. Pass was intended for Seppi. And I believe that is G.D. Marcellus. Oh, check that, Jaden Myers. Jaden Myers on the coverage. Myers knocking it away at the last second. I told you the coaches like Jaden. We'll see how much playing time he gets here, not only tonight but going forward. It'll be 4th down. We get a whistle and timeout Monroe. 4th and 11 from the 34. Now, maybe it's just me, but with 4:02 remaining and you're down 41-7, you're about to punt. So unless you're going to run a trick play here, unless you're running a trick play or something to that effect, but for Monroe, that is their first time out. That's the clock official, ladies and gentlemen. He should know he's talking into a live microphone before he says anything. I just thought you should know. 4th down, Monroe's going to go for it. Split backfield, or check that. They're going to punt, rather. Sorry, they're going to punt. So Scott will get this one away and takes a short bounce to midfield. The Raiders didn't touch it, although Monroe said they did, but I didn't see a Raider touch it, and the refs will go with that. So it'll be 1st and 10 North Brunswick from the 50. A Raider player almost did get blocked into that ball, but did not touch it. So 1st and 10 from the 50 with 3:48 remaining. And again, the backups are in here. Brandon Outlaw was in at quarterback on the last series. We'll see what the Raiders come out with here. Probably the final series of the game for the Raiders on the offensive side. So we'll see what they do here. It'll be 1st and 10, North Brunswick from midfield. Again, 3:40 and counting left in the fourth quarter. Jaden Myers is lined up wide to the right, or check that no, actually he's lined up at quarterback. He's going to take the snap, roll right, and crosses the 45, 50, 45, splits 2 men, 40, 30, to the right side. Jaden Myers, he's gone. Touchdown, North Brunswick Raiders. First varsity touchdown for Jaden Myers. And the Raiders now lead at 47-7. A 50-yard run from Myers. Laverne and Everton Myers, wherever they may be, have to be smiling somewhere. And so with under 3 minutes to go, the running clock comes back on. Nick Sidepod, he's a happy man. The blue sweater tonight. And so Aaron R. will kick the extra point here. High snap, and pulling it down. They'll try to run here with Petrillo. They'll throw it. Did he catch it? No. Intended for Leon Lowry in the left corner of the end zone. So the makeshift 2-point conversion, no good. 2:29 remains in the fourth. The Raiders lead at 47-7. Don't quote me on this, but I think this might be the most points the Raiders have scored since 2011 when they put up 61 on South Plainfield. Don't quote me on that. That was the game that put the Raiders in the state playoffs that year. LaShawn Boyd had a field day against the Tigers that night. But the Raiders will go to 3-1 for the first time since 2010. And Monroe will drop to 0-3. And so we'll get the kickoff here with 2:29 to go. Aaron R. will go from right to left. A high but short kick. And dropped, and now Torciello will just fall on it. Making sure he fell on it was Marquise Perry, the freshman. So Monroe will have it 1st and 10 at the 25-yard line. And so the Raiders defense will look for one more stop here. And again, the Raiders have Woodbridge next week. It looks like timeout North Brunswick. So the Raiders are down to one timeout, but 47-7 Raiders. We'll keep it here. But the Raiders will look ahead now to Woodbridge at homecoming next week, and then they will head to New Brunswick for a rivalry game with the Zebras. And then after that would be East Brunswick and Perth Amboy. So I'm going to see if I can do a little Monroe trivia here real quick. Let me see if I can do it. I don't know if I'll be able to or not. Depends on how far. Okay, so Monroe's last 0-3 start was 2016. That year, Monroe lost their first 9 games before winning their final game against Princeton. So for the second time in 3 years, the Falcons will start at 0-3. McLaughlin out of the gun, takes the snap, looks, throws it left, completes it in open field, and crossing the 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. He's going to outrun everybody. That is Bal Aliyah, and Monroe will have themselves a touchdown. Bal Aliyah from 75 yards. And so that makes it 47-13. Once Aliyah caught the ball, he just outran everybody. And so 75 yards. I tell you what, this would make an interesting JV game. The JV teams will play on Monday over at North Brunswick. It looks like we'll get the extra point from Scott. McLaughlin to hold. Snap. McLaughlin gets it down. Kick goes up. It's to the left. And no good. And so we've had a few missed extra points tonight. With 2:04 remaining in the fourth quarter, the Raiders lead it by a score of 47-13. We'll take one last break, and then we'll come back with Raiders football on the King James Radio Network.
Check out the King James Radio Network on social media by giving us a follow on Facebook. And we're also on Twitter at King James Radio 1.
My thanks to the official voiceover girl of the King James Radio Network, Ms. Hannah Rodriguez. And so, with 2 minutes and 4 seconds left in the fourth quarter, North Brunswick 47, Monroe 13. Monroe will kick here via Brandon Scott from left to right. So again, my thanks to Greg Beyer. And so, on a 100-plus yard night from Miles Bailey, Christian Petrillo with a touchdown run and a pass. This is a little squib kick here to the 40, and picking it up at about the 37 for the Raiders is number 33, which I do not have on the roster here. That's either Terrell Gladden or Marcus Paul, one of the two. This is where I miss Coach Aloya. Usually he can straighten these things out for me. Coach Joel Aloya, who's no longer with the coaching staff, he was in charge of the roster and the, all of that, so he could help me straighten that out. But 1st and 10, North Brunswick from the 40-yard line. So, calling signals out of the shotgun, running right is Marquise Perry. He's off to the races over on the far side, midfield. Monroe 40 and still going and out of bounds, or no, inbounds. Marquise Perry gets it down to about the Monroe 27. So about a 33-yard run for Perry with 55 seconds to go. And I would imagine this would be the final play of the game right here. So 1st and 10 Raiders from the 27. And again, Marquise Perry calling signals out of the shotgun, takes the snap, hands off, and running right. 25-20 down about the 15, keeps it in bounds, is number 29 for the Raiders. That is Jeremiah Brema. And will the Raiders call their final timeout here? Take it easy. Oh, penalty against North Brunswick. It'll come back. So scratch the run from Brema there. And if you're the Raiders, you might as well just sit on it and take a knee here. Unless you're going to throw a Hail Mary. And again, the Bourne Power Index comes into play here on whether or not you run up the score. So it will be 1st and 19 from the 36. And this time Myers takes the snap, but he's going to be tackled in the backfield. And that'll probably end the game. Number 36 for Monroe, Mike Innes on the tackle. So Innes on the tackle. Ball is back at the 29, but that's going to do it. That will do it. And this game will be over. Matter of fact, this game is over, and the North Brunswick Raiders win it by a score of 47-13. And so, yes, this is on demand at jamesisking.com. You can go back and listen to it anytime. As North Brunswick takes care of business here, they go to 3-1. Monroe drops to 0-3. And the Raiders will look forward now next Friday night, to homecoming when they will take on the Woodbridge Barons. Monroe will look for their first win next week. And the schedule says that they will head to Sayreville. Well, good luck. That's what I'll say. Sayreville, as we know, is the Raiders found out the hard way. Sayreville, not an easy chore. So good luck to the Falcons as they head to Sayreville next week. But the Raiders win it. And again, touchdown runs from Christian Petrillo, from Miles Bailey. Tyree Geaston with another touchdown catch to add to his total. And so the Raiders all around handling business today. They forced one turnover from Monroe. And again, you just got to clean up the penalties. But other than that, the Raiders in good shape tonight. And again, moved to 3-1 for the first time since 2010. My thanks to Greg Beyer, athletic director here at Monroe, for his help. And so we will bid you adieu from there. Our next broadcast of North Brunswick Raiders football on the King James Radio Network will be next Friday night, September the 28th, when the North Brunswick Raiders will take on the Woodbridge Barons. It will be homecoming at MBTHS at Steve Lebro Field. Game time will be at 7 o'clock. Raiders Live pregame presented by the Cal team at Remax Country will begin at 6:30. So again, my thanks to everyone, to Greg Beyer. Sean Morrell is the athletic director at North Brunswick. And the principal is Mr. Michael Neller. All right, so we will talk to you next Friday night. Until then, this is Corbett Thompson saying goodbye. Godspeed from Hugh Walsh Stadium, or Walsh Field, in Monroe, New Jersey, where your final score is, let's see, of course, I didn't write it down. What was it, 47? Yes, 47-13. Thank you. Your final score, the North Brunswick Raiders 47, the Monroe Falcons 13. We'll talk to you next Friday. You folks, have a good night.